Alrighty then. So yesterday, come on, why is it gotta be a fly right there? Yesterday, I recorded my review of the second year. Well, less of a review, more of a ramble discussion of the second year of me having access to the Xbox Game Pass, and I listed all the games I played throughout the year, or at least the ones I had started. Then also went into a discussion about ones that do get removed from the service and so on. And so while preparing for that, I made a spreadsheet and looked what I did last year. And I started, I went to trueachievements.com, went to my profile, which is Woodrow1, and I looked at my games that I play, and then I sorted them by, when did I start playing them? And then as I was going along, putting games down, that's like, okay, this game I played, this game I played. I started looking at that, and in conjunction with my budget spreadsheet, a spreadsheet I keep where I list everything that I purchase. I started. I thought it'd be novel to be like, okay, so these are the games I played on Game Pass, and because of Game Pass, I didn't have to buy that many games this year. Well, I guess I didn't have to, but I was very surprised at the result by the end of it because so the first year of Game Pass. No, I know before I started playing Game Pass, like I said, I'm gonna get myself ready. I'm gonna complete Fallout 4. There was another open world. Oh, a Borderlands 3. That sounds right. I was making sure to beat all the DLC for that. Well, in the first season, I haven't touched the second season. I don't know if I ever will. And I'm like, okay, now Game Pass. And then leading up to it, I knew like, okay, well, there's games that I won't buy because I know they're on there. And then once I'm subscribed, bam, I'll just play this and this and this and this. So the reason for showing the second year is more of just of like, okay, I got the must plays out of the way. And sure, they add games all the time, and those are helpful. You can demonstrate like, here's what they add in all the time, or at least here's what I'm playing. And so in the first year, I played, it was like 53 games on Game Pass versus 5 that I purchased. This year was quite different. I ended up, by my count, okay, well, I think by the end of December, I'm going to play 2 more on Game Pass because High on Life just came out 2 days ago. Haven't started it yet. And also, I want to play Immortals Phoenix Rising by Ubisoft. But those will just maybe just have to be in next year's video. Um, yeah, so but by my count, up until this point, I played 29 or started 29 different games on Game Pass and actually bought 30 or so. And that was really surprising because I've been feeling this whole year like, oh, look at me, I don't buy video games anymore. But no, I guess I still do. And so my buying habits though, like I don't really pay attention to video game news that much. Like, sure, like I think True Achievements is my main source of news, and and like half of the headlines there are like, "This is being added to Game Pass. This is being added to Game Pass. This game comes out." So it's not. I don't actively look out for games that come out. I'm not too invested or obsessed with like, oh, I have to play the newest games all the time. Um, Especially since I mostly play single player games, so it's not like if our multiplayer focus is like, yeah, you got to make sure to play the games while there's still people playing them. But I mostly play single player experiences almost exclusively. Um, yeah, so then, but that being said, so I did buy a lot more games this year. However, the upside is if you look at the average though, like over 30 games on average, I only spent like $13 on every game, and I'll show you what I'm talking about for each individual one, which just goes to show that's like, okay, with Game Pass, at least it's like, okay, you're being entertained the whole time. You don't have to go out and be like, oh, I'm not playing anything. Guess I'll go buy a game. Hey, what's new? Um, Plus, they do occasionally release a day one release. Okay, so let me just pull up another spreadsheet here. Get that there. Okay, so the first, and yeah, this doesn't appear to be, it wasn't necessarily part of any sale, because on January 19th, I purchased Time Splitters 2 and Time Splitters Future Perfect. Oh, yeah, so I did start by saying what my shopping habits are. And it is true that despite having access to Game Pass and being entertained the whole time, on Xbox, if you open up the store app, every week there's new sales. Well, I say new, but then yeah, when you look at it every week, it does seem like there's certain games that are like on sale 60% of the time, or repeat things that are on there again and again and again. And sometimes they like to pretend like, oh, they have a new reason for why it's on sale again. Mostly holidays. So I do spend a little bit of time just or like I don't really browse through any other section. Just what's on sale, and if nothing takes my interest, good. But then sometimes you just see something that's like, okay, that's finally a really good price. Sure, I'll buy it. And then sometimes you just see something you haven't didn't know was there. Like either I may have heard at some point that Time Split they were remaking or at least re-releasing Time Splitters and Time Splitters Feature Perfect, but I didn't know until one day I saw they were each on sale for $4. And yeah, they were amongst my favorite games of the GameCube. I say amongst. I'm sure if you said what was your favorite, I probably rattle off a few before remembering or looking at the game collection, going, "Oh yeah, Time Splitters, those were dope." This one character here, this orange robot guy, I thought was just one of the most badass characters, and was whenever I had to have an avatar on a forum or something, that was one of my go-tos. Now I don't I want to say it was like MK number 11, something like that. And yeah, so I wrote down here that seemingly I played, or I estimate I may have played Time Splitters 2 for 2 hours. It's a little spooky, but like not too bad, especially now that I have some recollection of what's going to happen. I can't be too shocked by it. But still, it's a little dark. But yeah, it does take you back to like GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, because it's the I remember on Future Perfect, I think the little like sale pitch was it's the heir apparent to GoldenEye. I think it was the same people who made it. Wasn't necessarily made by Rare, but like the same people who were involved. So $4, what the hell? I don't buy video games. I can spend $4 here, there, sure, why not? And then just not play them. Likewise, Saints Row. I love the I want to say I love the series, but like I started at 3. There is a new Saints Row that has come out. I'm waiting. I am conflicted. In previous years, it definitely would have been a pre-order, but like now, I almost don't pre-order anything, and I'm pretty glad I did. Not only just out of cost, but seemingly did not review very well. They tried to make it, from what I hear, too original, and as a result, it's like, well, then they didn't capture the magic of the previous games. They're missing something. Here, it didn't review well. It's still expensive. I can wait and maybe give it a shot when it's $20. Anywho, I'm a fan of the series, like 3, like 4. I think I played 3. Maybe I played. Well, I feel like I played 3 twice, and then I think they remastered it another time. But it's just like, no, that's enough. That's enough. And then 4, and also Gat Out of Hell. Very exciting stuff. So yeah, so when I see Saints Row is available and it's $1.69, it's like, well, you know what? Even if I don't end up playing it, or then here is just well, not that so much a respectful treatise, but hopefully that dollar goes to someone who was involved in Saints Row at some point, right? Uh, why not? So yeah, he's probably the closest to a full price game I've played, even though the Jackbox Party Pack games, they're about half price games. They are kind of getting up there now. I think the more recent ones are $35 at launch. But it's still reasonable enough that's like, well, you know what? So I already had Jackbox 8 on Xbox. This I purchased on Steam just so I could play it online with friends, have an event. And yeah, really, yeah, between Pole Mine and Wheel of Enormous Proportions, actually, people really like Job Job. They seem to like it more than I do. yeah, there's enough there. Like, let's say if you have even six people playing one night, $23, forget about it. That's a good deal. And yeah, honestly, if Jackbox had some sort of subscription program where they're like, maybe pay annually and you pay, maybe the price of, one and a half games, it'd be neat if they're like, you know what, you subscribe and you can get access to all our games on all the platforms, and maybe some sort of quarterly or monthly perk that I can't picture. I don't know, just some behind the scenes stuff. I'd absolutely subscribe. Because yeah, I've kind of stopped now, but yeah, I did make sure to buy some of the Jackbox games on Switch and Steam and Xbox, just in case it's just like something comes up where it would be handy to have it available on whichever platform would be handy in a given situation. Um, Although, yeah, trying to run Jackbox at a convention where internet was not readily available did not work out as well as I was hoping it would one time. So no regrets there. This is the highest, $23, not bad. Worth it for a day. Then we got Team Sonic Racing, which for the longest time I thought that had to have been a placeholder title. Um, Sonic and All Stars Racing, or something like that, was a solid game. So was the sequel, and I just thought they were being cheeky by going, okay, the Team Sonic, as I understand it, is the organization that makes the Sonic games. So I just thought Team Sonic Racing was just the placeholder name for the next racing game that Team Sonic is making. And I expected it to be as good as the other ones. Waited for it to be a fair price. And actually, I think I did pretty well in that regard. It got for 14.77. Um, Based on the other games, I would have paid 20. But yeah, no, actually, this game turned out to be a stinker though. Just because, like, it's just weird. So it's called Team Sonic Racing, and it's called that because you race in teams of three. And so, and I mean, I'm sure, well, I would imagine if you're playing multiplayer, to my knowledge, like I said, I don't really play a lot of multiplayer games, but I am not aware of any other game that is racing game that is multiplayer focused. Well, except for Rocket League. That's not racing; it's a sport game. But I don't know of any other games that are multiplayer team-based racing. But if I'm playing for single player, it just does not work out because what you're supposed to kind of do is like if you're driving along, you have kind of this stream that follows you, and if any of your allies are driving on that stream, like they get a boost eventually, and then they can pass you. And then if you follow their stream, theoretically, you can just keep boosting each other. And if one of your teammates crashes, you can like drive into them to recover them quickly. There's item boxes, and you get an item box, and you can, if you're just like, oh, I actually don't need this item right now, you can pass it to someone else. But the items are pretty lame, and I just straight up never need them anyway. So, but when you do that trading thing, you get the more interactions you do with your team, you fill up like a critical boost meter, which it's kind of like picture if your entire team got a Starman in Mario Kart plus like the golden mushroom at the same time. Like your entire team just launches into first place when you fill up this bar, which does get kind of weird when it's just like, okay, I was winning, but now the opponents just did that. And yeah, it's novel, but like, so you're racing in part of a team, but you have almost little to no control about how well your team is doing, and they don't seem to just make it easy by making your teammates drive as well as you, or even like in your proximity or anything. So it's just like, cool, I'm winning. Like I'm playing, like, let's say I'm playing on normals, and it's a as long as I don't massively crash or I could make a bad turn or get hit by items. Otherwise, I'm typically in first, but like my teammates might be in like sixth. One might be in second, one might be in sixth, and it's just like, okay, cumulative score of the team kind of rates your overall thing. It's just like, well, I can't. There's really nothing I can do. Well, so I might win normal when I play on hard. It's just like, well, I'm doing okay, but my team just fails, and I feel there's really nothing I can do. I don't know if I'm really just supposed to like not race and instead focus on trying to just be ahead of my teammates enough, and maybe on average will all go faster. It's a very strange game. That and yeah, the loading times are long, and there's the story mode has all this just dull dialogue. Um, so yeah, I would rate this game pretty low, and should do that. I should write a review somewhere and just say like, you think this is okay, but it's not. I mentioned in the previous video that Shadow of War. Yes, this is the sequel. Yeah, is on Game Pass, and I liked it so much that I bought it. I bought the Game of the Year edition just so I can get all the DLC. Um, oh, I see how this works. Yeah. So actually, I was mistaken. I said both were $13, but it looks like this Game of the Year edition cost $13. But in the entire game that I played, including the game and the DLC, I ended up spending 66 hours. So yeah, no regrets there. I spent another $13 on the itch.io bundle for Ukraine. And I wrote down that I played and streamed 6 games and got my money's worth. If you want to check out, but it looks like I only streamed one episode. Itch.io bundle for Ukraine, which include games. Is this muted? Sure. Uh, Dogs Throwing Swords 2, Circa Infinity, and Delver. This Circle game, yeah, certainly was a trip. I remember playing that. So I don't know. Apparently, I was convinced that I got my money's worth. Um, at least tried some new stuff. And had an afternoon or an evening. Looks like a stream for an hour. That's good fun. Good wholesome fun. Why not? Uh, and then it seems later on. Oh, I guess I didn't take a picture of this. I assumed I would have bought these at the same time, but no, it looks like February I bought Middle Earth Shadow of War, and then I just figured, you know what? I enjoyed this so much. Sure, I'll buy the prequel Middle Earth Shadow of Mordor for the Game of the Year edition, so all the DLC for $8.38 for 40 hours. So yeah, and I guess that's the thing too. When I say like, oh, I'm shocked that I spent money, it's like these are deals. These are nothing to be ashamed about. I can afford these. And yeah, it looks like so far, well, everything I've listed, that's January to February. So, 3 a month is not unheard of. Well, even then, Time Splitters and Future Perfect, it looks like I didn't play much at all. So that's kind of the kicker. Where it's kind of weird that you're spending money on games that you're not really playing. Must have got distracted by something. The next title was a bundle. I think I saw Risk of Rain 2 was $9.99, and it's like, or you could buy this bundle which includes Risk of Rain and Risk of Rain 2 for $11. I'm like, okay. Looked them up, did a little review, and it's like, it sounds like it's not bad. And you know what? I ended up enjoying Risk of Rain much more than Risk of Rain 2. It's just this 2D game where, and yeah, it's another of those rogue. This one would be a roguelike. Yeah, you unlock characters, but I don't think you really unlock, like, get progressively stronger. So I'm going to categorize it as a roguelike, where you're one of so many unlockable characters with different gun types, and enemies just come at you first slowly and then gradually. There's more and more, and then there's the occasional boss as you're trying to find a portal which will take you to the next level. I found so Risk of Rain was 2D, and I found that worked. Risk of Rain 2 were set in 3D levels in 3D spaces, and I just found myself getting lost and confused and um, just having to navigate and actually aim at enemies and which can come from all different areas. It just I don't know. I didn't have as much fun, so it was a little surprising that the what seemed to be the much simpler experience was more enjoyable for me. Um, Similarly, I got 17 hours at both those games. Uh, Scribble Knots. Now this was a 2 pack. Okay, this is good. $8.38 for what looks like it's 2 games, right? But similarly, I only spent 1 hour. So Scribble Knots. Um, I played one such game on the DS. Like I think it was just called Scribble Knots at the time. And then they have made more and more and more. And I don't know. I just thought, like I. It also helps that I first saw Scribble Knots at E3, and I was just so blown away by this idea of like, oh yeah, we have this like dictionary in the game, so you can summon things that, and it's just like creativity is the limit, right? And I just remember being so astonished that when someone's like, oh okay, so if I write in the word submarine, and then when they wrote in the word submarine, the game asked, do you mean a sandwich or the vehicle? And I was just like, whoa, man, this game's thought of there must be so much to it. Um, so it's a mega pack. It's 2 pack. One of them is a DC thing, which I haven't touched yet. I think that was deemed the second game in the pack. The first one, the deal there was, or I guess what may have been new about it was you now finally had adjectives. So not only were you writing words for like, oh, I need this now. I need a ladder. I need a dinosaur. I need a comet. Now you could be like, or you could be like, oh, I would need, a bumpy dinosaur. I don't know, right? Like whatever, right? And it worked. It had a lot of, although yeah, it did. Yeah, I guess on the DS it was fine typing because I think there was a keyboard that popped up and you could just tap in the layers you need. Boom, it was there. On the console version, I think I had to like press a button, and then it would be like, oh okay. It would take you to a wheel where it's like, what letter do you want? Is it one of these 8 or one of these 8 or one of these 8 or something dumb like that? Where it's just like really hard to just it took a long time to type in a word. But what was really a bummer about like adjectives was that a lot of the puzzles you needed to solve, a lot of the challenges, it was just straight up like, oh no, here is a doctor and he is a sad doctor. So you'd see the words above him, sad doctor. And like, can you make this doctor not a sad doctor? So you just write the word happy, and it's like, oh yay, now he's a happy doctor. So I don't know if this is just the tutorial land. It seemed like it got to 1 or 2 levels or different stages, but it was legit just a matter of the game is what's antonym simulator pretty much. It's just like oh no, this person's itchy. Okay, so make them soothed. Like I don't know, this guy's too tall, short. I don't know. Like that was it. That's the game. It's just like that's not really creative. I mean, or unless you really try to limit yourself, I suppose. So that was a bit of a regret. Galaxy of Pen and Paper. I really enjoyed. Oh, geez, what was the prequel called? I think it was just called Knights of Pen and Paper, and it had a sequel, and they're pretty novel. It was a matter of the game was set in a group of players playing a tabletop RPG, and like so each of the players, just represented, a different character in the party, um, different classes, and you unlocked more classes. And you start off with 2, and the party gets bigger, and then I can't remember if it's like you necessarily were the DM. No, I don't think that was maybe, but no, it's very weird because it was one or when I say novel or interesting, the way this RPG worked, a lot of the time was a matter of like, okay, oh no, here's this tavern keeper. He's got a problem. I've got too many rats in my basement. Could you please kill 5 rats? And then it'd be like, okay, so go downstairs to the cellar of this tavern, and then it would just let you pick, like, cool, have an encounter. How many rats do you want to fight? And you could just set it to, I want to fight 1 rat at a time, and then it would be a combat encounter with 1 rat, or you could be like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 at once and just knock it all out at once. The kicker being, like, the more enemies you had, the harder the fight was because of action economy. Because everyone, like, I think in our given round, everyone got 1 turn unless you were a class that was speedy, or maybe I just made that up. Um, so, but I think the trade off was, if you do make encounters more difficult, you got like your experience and your gold, and I guess the likelihood of getting mission loot to drop was increased, not necessarily exponentially, but to a certain multiplier. And I think some quests even said, like, oh, it has to be at least difficulty in order to succeed. I mean, it sounds dumb, the idea of just like, oh, you determine how hard you want the fights to be, but it kind of worked because you made it as challenging as you wanted to in order to minimize or make it as efficient as you want it to. And also just figuring out how strong is my party, and how much can they take, and what is the actual optimal that we can do. And then as you're leveling up, it's like, oh, that slides it a little bit. So yeah, I think I just bought this game as soon as actually it came at $8.05. Um, I don't know if I maybe saw it. It was just at some point I was like, oh, if I ever see that on sale, I'll buy it. Or maybe that was the first time I ever saw it. Yeah, so this one changed quite a bit, and I think one of the first things he did was, nice encounter, and then I can't remember if it was something blatantly ripped off of Star Wars, old man wants to get off the planet, but you eventually get a spaceship, and then went into space, and then suddenly it's like, oh, now you've got space combat with ships, and that's as far as I got, seemingly for 45 minutes. If it's not uninstalled off the console, which I think, yeah, so I bought it in April, end of April. It should still be on there. We'll see if I get around to playing it. I don't know. Stardew Valley, you might be surprised to learn that I didn't enjoy it that much. But my good friend Tara wanted to play it together. I can't remember if we were watching No, they were watching movies at the same time. But I think she just wanted to play it co-op and started a new adventure and added me into the mix. And I don't know. Yesterday I discussed Disney Dreamlight Valley. Yeah, that's the name of the game, and how much I enjoy that because of all the things you could do. And I don't know, this game, it just seemed a little bit too much like, okay, a new day starts. This is what we were working on. And then eventually you run out of energy. I don't know if it's just because we were enjoying each other's company. We didn't have to deal with like, oh, let's actually talk to the townsfolk and see what they're up to and do things for them. I don't think there was a lot of that going on, but it was really just a lot of like, okay, so we have this vegetable we can grow. So to maximize, well, I don't even know if we were maximizing profit. We're like, well, we can make this much. Okay, harvest it, sell the produce. Now we have more money. We could make we can buy more expensive seeds, which will sell for more. So yeah, just very slowly our farm was getting bigger and bigger. And we're getting more things. And I was very surprised that towards the end, it's like, wait a second, there is a dungeon we can explore and all kinds of stuff. So there's a lot of things going on. But I just let Tara decide, like, okay, what are we doing here? What are we working on today? And yeah, I just felt like it was just the day. Well, yeah, I don't. In a lot of games, it turns me off whenever there's anything that's timer based. That like you have a time limit, you gotta do this. So just this thing about like running out of, or the day ends and then your character runs out of energy and just faints. It's just like, and I guess it was like it allowed the days turning allowed for the story to progress if it ever did. I don't even know if it ever would. Like I know there was stuff about some sort of like, I want to say eggplant fair, but that's not right. Like an Easter festival, let's say, that everyone's looking forward to, but like once it happened, it was like, okay, that was a thing. These townsfolk are rude. Um, I don't know, but I know a lot of people loved it and sunk hundreds of hours into it. So maybe I'm just wrong. So that was for what, 1784, which at that point is like, I'm sure I could probably have gotten cheaper if I was looking for it and looking at sales, but it was more just like, oh, you want me to play this? Sure, do it. For 223, I purchased this bullet hell game called Riddled Corpses EX. It's good, but it's hard though. Like, well, there's an arcade mode where it's pretty good at just like, okay, as long as you're keeping up the firing and making sure to get the loot that drops, you are leveling up quick enough. Just barely. It is intense. It is good, but the story mode is like, yeah, it's surprisingly is more of a grind than I was expecting. Um, like I got stuck on story level 2 of, I'm thinking that's only like 5. Um, and I realized, oh, but yeah, but like, you kill enemies, they drop gold. You just got to make sure you run over and pick it up. And then yeah, it seemed like after 5 times of actually, just going through the progress of killing enemies, getting gold, dying, killing enemies, getting gold, dying, killing enemies, getting gold. But every time you leave the level and then just go in and level up, it seemed like after a certain point, it's like, okay, now my person is strong enough that their weapon actually does enough damage that the zombies swarming up on me won't kill me in time long enough for me to beat the level. And then it turned out the third level was, I beat it on my first try, so I don't know if it was just one bad level. Um, and yeah, this was a game I figured I'll buy for PAX Kerry because it was multiplayer. I don't know if it's up to 4, but we played it 2 players for a while. Just harmless, violent fun. Um, okay, Cuphead DLC. Yeah. Cuphead in the delicious last course. I don't think I said in yesterday's video, but very recently I said somewhere to someone that like as far as like I mostly play games for the sake of achievements, or that's how I know when to play and what to play and when to stop playing. And there's really only, and so once I've beaten a game or reached a point where it's like, okay, it's done, I can only think of like 2 games that I've played in recent years that I was done the game, I've completed it, but I still wanted to play because it was just downright fun. One was Hades, which to be fair, I didn't get like the maximum ascension level. Like it didn't beat the hardest, very possible difficulty, but got through the story and the rest of the story. Yes, and the rest of the story. Um, and Cuphead, So Hades and Cuphead. Those are 2 games I'll likely ever I'll reinstall and play again. So yeah, I was stoked that they had more Cuphead. Let's see. So it was and I was fine paying $11.19 for the DLC, which seemingly took me 4 hours to complete. Interesting. Yeah, like I think at first I was a little miffed. It's like, really, it's just DLC, but no, I think they took, because the base game has like 3 worlds and then the final one, which is 2 bigger boss levels. And then so this DLC was 1 more island, so the equivalent of about a third of the game. So if the original game was $20 or 30, then it's like, okay, this is a fair equivalent. Plus, and then yeah, so this DLC also added a new character, Miss Chalice, who does behave quite differently, and you can kind of feel it too when you're playing these new bosses, where Um, it really felt like some of the bosses, like as much as you want to be like, okay, well, I'm used to playing as Cuphead and Mugman, I'll just I'll stay as these characters I'm used to using and defeat the bosses. It just really felt like the levels were designed to match with Ms. Chalice's movesets just a little better. Like they were possible as Cuphead and Mugman, but it's just like, nah, you'd be at an advantage if you use Ms. Chalice. It's just stuff like um, Ms. Chalice, I believe, had a double jump. Um, and I think started off with like one more health point. But I think there was a trade off about like not being able to use the smoke dash or something. Oh yeah, because Cuphead can jump, and then when you press the jump button again, you parry. Miss Chalice doesn't have that, but I think when you dash, it just automatically parries anything you run into. So the point is, as you're playing these levels, you start realizing, oh no, Cuphead can't quite jump to this height I want to sometimes, but if I had a double jump, oh, that would have been so much easier. Um, but then the lesson is just get good. And Cuphead's a hard game. Hard, but I like it. It fits in the category of something I discussed yesterday where it's hard but possible. Although it really does depend on you accumulate skill and get better over time. Don't get me wrong. Plus, it makes me feel like I'm pretty darn good at video games. Yeah. Um, so this was a title I was looking forward to once it came out, I was like, okay, that's a thing. People were stoked for it. I wasn't. I didn't know what the deal was. I don't know how long it was in production, seemingly a long time. I saw the thing where Keanu Reeves was in the commercials. And I was like, okay, that's neat. And I know a lot of people were very upset when it came out, and it was super buggy. So that was a game I just thought, okay, if it's good, if it ever comes down in price, we'll see. But no, I had a couple of friends who were very avid about, no, this is a very good game. You should play it. And I found it at Game Deals Video Games for $20. Um, so I just, I'd otherwise been looking, and on Xbox Live, like it would go on sale every so often. I think even now. So yeah, this was in July that I purchased it, and yeah, I'm still playing it at this point. Like I beat the story. Now I'm at the point where it's just like, okay, now it's open world. There's crimes to fight. I think I'm at the point now, and like I think I'm playing the normal difficulty where it's just like I could challenge myself by using the skill sets I normally don't rely on, but I think I'm at a point now where I can just, oh look, here's a bunch of enemies. Stealth, snap, snap, stealth, snap, stealth, snap, stealth, snap. There's me. Well, I don't violent. I sneak up on people, grab them, and then do the non-lethal takedown. And then you know what? If they ever do catch me, that's like, you know what? Fine. Bat, 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 and I'm done. And hacking's fun, even though I'm not really using it optimally, but it's a nice enough mini game with just enough thinking about it that it's neat. Um, and yeah, so I think it'll still take me a while. Apparently, I wrote down 44 hours, but I think it's been way more than that. Well, apparently not. That's what I wrote down. And yeah, I think it might take another 30 or so to just like complete everything. Plus, it turned out that there were a bunch of alternate endings and maybe some achievements I missed for certain decisions I made during the story, possibly. So I'll be with it for a while, but I'm pretty sure at some point I'll just be like, cool, I've done as much as I can on this save, then I'll put it away. And I think I read something about DLC coming out soon, so maybe there'll be a reason if I ever someday be like, oh, look, very cheap Cyberpunk DLC. I'll start the story over again. Um, See if I played it a little differently. Maybe focus on guns next time. Let's see. Curse. Oh, why is this out of order? No, it's not. For $1.39. Uh, okay, apparently I bought all of the Saints Row 3 DLC. That doesn't sound right. but, which includes Gangsters in Space. Or you know what? No, I think that's all I bought. Hmm. No, there was definitely a Professor Genki DLC. And I think the Santa Claus one is Saints Row 4. But yeah, apparently it took me 3 hours, $1.39. Wait, 3 hours? That can't be right. Yeah, no, I think I even started a new character. Or did I? Yeah, I did. No, I don't know. I knew what I was doing, I guess, and was able to get through it. And yeah, the DLC really was nothing. Really glad I got it super discounted because I think, yeah, each one probably took 30 minutes. So it's kind of like, really? This should have been free. But it's like, it's more of what you want. They have a right to charge for it. Fair enough. But I'm satisfied with what I spent. Curse of the Dead Gods is so far the only game that was on Game Pass, which they removed from the service, and I thought, I think I'll buy it. I'm enjoying it that much. I do want to finish, or once they announced they were taking off the service, I realized, I'm gonna do my see how much I can do before it's taken off, and I really got into it again, or more so than I had in the past. So I was like, you know what? I'm enjoying myself. It's going to be on sale for right now. $15. I put in 50 hours in this game. Real solid. And then it looks like one day at the end of August. Okay, it's only 2 games here. Wasn't that true? I don't know. I was just looking at the shop late one night. What big sale would have been August 31st? Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. For $2.18, I got Get 10 Quest, which is just like, you got these boxes with numbers on them. As you can see on the screen, like here's a bunch of twos in a row. If you double click on them, all those twos will turn into one square, which is a 3. And then so that will fall into place. So you have consecutive threes touching. You touch them to get 4. Just a bunch of puzzles. $2.18. I think it's like 60 levels, some multiple of 4. And yeah, it's just like, sometimes you want a math or a puzzle game. And I think I probably looked at a review and nothing said, it's buggy, or it seemed all possible. For $1.09, I bought this game called Guards. And so far I've spent 9 hours on it. It's pretty. Probably should have got a better picture of it. Where it's a pretty strategic game. You start with these 4 characters, and you're on this grid. It's like, let's see, 3 high by maybe 6 across. Now, your characters don't really move so much, but like every turn, um, you get to make one move. So you have one character at the far left of the screen, not really doing any, like they're on standby. If you leave them there, they'll just heal over time, but they don't get to attack because they're sidebarred essentially. And then everyone else in the first column of 3 spaces, they once you've made a move, they'll do their action. And then the enemies will, usually it's them getting closer. So picture kind of like a Plants vs. Zombies, but turn-based. Some of them have range attacks, but I think most of them have to move into melee range. And so really all the game is on your turn, you get one action where you take 2 of your units and you switch places with them. So it's like, let's say an enemy is going to be moving into melee range at the bottom row. then you would put your melee character, swap them with the ranged character, so that way your melee character can attack the enemy, and then your ranged character might be able to attack a ranged enemy who's further away. With your standby character, though, if you swap one of the characters with them, they get to use their magic ability, which is character specific. The character with a bow here just shoots out an arrow which hits everyone. The person with a gun makes a massive blast attack, which hits fewer squares but has big damage. You got a knight who just will damage everything in an entire row. You got a healer who will heal your team. So it's not as straightforward as just switching characters out vertically, but also you thinking like, okay, well, I'm going to swap you out so that, or swap you out so this person will do their magic attack, or maybe you may have done it because you want that person you've swapped out to use their magic attack the next turn, or you can just swap vertically. And then so it's a lot of it is like, what do I need on the turn now, and what am I going to need 2 turns from now? And yeah, pretty hard, but like it was very satisfying to the point where it's just like, as I was getting further and further each time, and then when you lose, you at least accumulate some gold or complete some missions for progressing that much further, and you unlock items and gold, and you can level or an experience. But yeah, the experience is tied to how the farthest you have gone on any run. So it's not just, oh, I'll eventually get it if I keep playing, but once I've reached a point, it will have to be like, okay, now to what have I learned? What's the best tactic, or what's the best classes to go with? What's the best upgrades during the run? Super compelling for a game I bought for $1.09. As opposed to the first game I purchased for full price this year, in September 2, which was TMNT The Cowabunga Collection, which even then, I say full price, but like this game is like 13 games in one, possibly. I mean, there's some duplicates. Like I think it counts Tournament Fighters 3 times at least, one for the NES, SNES, and Genesis. I think it's got at least like 2 versions of Turtles in Time and a few other things. And you know what? It's just the darndest thing. Like, I knew it's an absolute value. I knew I had to get it. But I don't know. I just think I kind of regret getting it right away. Or I could have saved some money because I haven't really. I've so far, like, I've played, some of the Tournament Fighter ones, the arcadey fighting games. I've played, I think there's 3 games from Game Boy, which is just like, you know what? Even if I ever found those games somewhere at like, a used game store and maybe pay $10, maybe up to $20 for the Game Boy games, it's like, no, you're never going to find them. So it's quite a neat find in that regard. And I don't even have a Game Boy at this point anyway, so. Oh, yeah, I guess I do. But batteries, man. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like, I love Turtles in Time, but at the same time, it's kind of just like, ooh, I keep putting this game off because I want to save it. I want to savor it, and you know what? I also want to kind of like play it with all my friends at once, like I did with Shredder's Revenge. So that I got a much better value out of that, especially since it was on Game Pass. Okay. So yeah, that was $55.99, which is bringing the average up, or it's practically twice the average of how much I've spent on games this year per game. This was a game, like I didn't know about this until I just saw it on sale one day. Looked up reviews and it said like, it's a game. It's hard. If you're a fan of the show, you might get some laughs out of it. Not really. I'm not really a fan. I'm aware of Angry Video Game Nerd and James Rolfe, and I knew back in the day. I knew some people who were fanatical about the Angry Video Game Nerd, and I got it. I liked his shtick, and I just kind of hoped that he would lend his name to a product of some quality, right? Um, and yeah, so it's two games in one, and I think if you beat the two games, you get some sort of third game, which I'm just picturing it's just going to be like a replay or a remix somehow of the first two games. First game I played, and yeah, I just played one level a day, and yeah, it's fairly challenging stuff. And like from what I remember of Angry Video Game Nerd, it was a lot of like, oh, this NES game, it's garbage. It's so with vulgarities and alcohol, and he'd be like, oh, it's so what a stupid bad game. Like it's impossibly hard and low quality, and it makes no sense. And yeah, a little bit of that kind. So when you play the first game, yeah, it's a lot like, yeah, this is the game fits into the categories of games that he would have played, which were difficult at the time. But it's a little slack now because I mean now there's really no need in this day and age for games to have a set number of lives. There's enough checkpoints to get you through, but like between checkpoints, it's pretty brutal. And there's collectibles and stuff. First game was fun. Second game, I'm hoping will just be a big expansion. Um, but yeah, I think I'd enjoy it a lot more if I knew these references he was making. Um, like the video game references make sense, but not the specific like. It's very clear he's making jokes, which were jokes that must have been in his videos, and it's just references that fly over my head. Um, yeah, fairly solid. And how much did I pay for that? Sorry, $8.50. From what I played, it was worth 10. It's fine. For $14.19, I was convinced with my Nintendo family to subscribe to the Nintendo Switch, not just the online, but the Switch expansion. Which yeah, we got benefits out of it. I know my brother, or I hope he did, would have benefited by now from getting the DLC in Mario Kart for free. I think at some point, maybe if I remember and get an inkling to do it, I'll play the Splatoon 2 DLC. But so far, it was just like, okay, well, you know what? If we've got the N64 games now, I've never beaten Majora's Mask. And for, I want to say, over a weekend, I reached the point in the game that was as far as I'd ever gotten before. Or actually, a little further. The furthest prior to this year was like the second temple where you're Gorons. I've now beat the third temple with the where you can transform into a Zora, and then I reached a point where I'm still getting to the fourth place, but now before I even reach this dungeon, it seems like I have to go through this dungeon with mummies, or they look like reskinned, re-dead. You know the. I don't think my voice goes that high. I'm not even trying. But yeah, this not yet a dungeon I'm in seems to be a bunch of trading missions. As I understand it, Majora's Mask with the time limit thing and that technology inspired Animal Crossing. But I'm finding this dungeon is also should have been an inspiration for Animal Crossing, which was a lot of your neighbors just asking you for stuff and trading. That's all these mummies are doing. It's like I go into a room and it's just like, sure, I'll let you in this next door, but only if I had some sort of creepy crawly thing. So you're just like, okay, leave the room, scoop up a bug in a bottle, be like, here's a bug, and then be like, ah, and then they die, and then you can move to the next room. And by when I don't know, I looked into this, and it seems like it could be over a dozen of these things, and it's just like, I don't know, man. Like I have to go. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll just never end up beating Majora's Mask, after all. But you know what? It's like if they throw in this curveball and this dissatisfying experience in the middle of it, Maybe I'm not the disappointment for not beating Majora's Mask. Maybe. And I'll let you figure out where I want to end that sentence without actually saying it. For $6.69, I bought 3 pieces of DLC for Fallout 3. And so that was The Pit, Point Lookout, and a third one. And I figured I would start a new save because I also had achievements I haven't unlocked for reaching levels like 8, 14, and now 30 at levels, or maybe there's one in the 20s too. Or not reaching these levels at being evil and neutral. I've only been good so far. Or I think I only played Fallout 3 like one serious run. I don't know. Maybe I did another run when I did the other DLC back in the day. But yeah, there's still, and then yeah, so I played through the pit. Although yeah, there's one thing left I gotta do with like just go and find 100 iron ingots, or I guess at this point I only need 88 more. But it's just like I don't know about that. And yeah, Fallout 3 is just amazing. I remember maybe like 3-4 years ago lending my 360 to this couple I knew, and they started Fallout 3. And I think for the most part, they're just going to be like, "Oh, we're only going to play when you're here, Kerry." But I was like, "No, it's a massive game. Don't like just go." And like the next time they saw me, they were like, "Oh man, the antagonizer and the robot guy. Those people were so cool." And I'm like, "I have no idea who you're talking about." And I guess when I played, when I started the game, I left the vault, and I went to Megaton, and then maybe I turned left, and maybe they left the vault, went to Megaton, and then turned right, and so they get a completely different experience than I did. But this time I managed to find who they were talking about, and yeah, they're pretty funny. So yeah, that's another thing too. So it's just like sometimes it's like, hey, you could go spend $60, $80 on a new game, but it's like, hey, if you've never played the DLC for a game you really enjoyed, and it's down to $6, give you a reason to play this older game again. That's not, or it's a good compromise, or not really a compromise, so to speak. What am I saying? I'm saying it's a good opportunity. Rogue Legacy. I purchased for $4.19. I think it was free on Epic Games, and I must have tried it a little bit and been like, yeah, okay, I get it. Tutorial. And I was like, yeah, but I'd rather play on my couch, not on the PC. So $4.19. And that was in October 11th. It's still on my console. Haven't started it yet. I've been playing other games, including this next one I'm going to mention. But it'll be there, and I'm pretty sure I will enjoy it. Or I hope I do. Or for $4, who cares? Round Guard, though. This was a game I purchased for $11. And yeah, like I saw pretty much what you see on screen now, where it's just like angry mimic treasure chests. And at a glance, it looks like, oh man, what is this cutesy wootsy baby game? Like, look at these round characters. Like, what the heck's going on here? But you know what? Grow up. I don't know who I'm mad at. I guess all the people who didn't like Wind Waker because it was Legend of Zelda. How wrong they were. So I don't know. I just looked at it first. I'm like, somehow this caught my attention. And essentially, what the game is, it's essentially if they took Peggle. Well, I was about to say if they took Peggle and made it an RPG, but I think that's the tagline for a game that was made or released this year called Peglin. But I think this works a little better. So essentially, you get a level and you got all these pegs. This is a boss level. Probably shouldn't show a screenshot of that. And then you got a thing at the top that launches your character, very reminiscent of Peggle. And then your character, yes, is a ball, but they are a ball, but they're also one of four classes, um, like a barbarian or fighter type guy, a rogue, a wizard, and a druid. And the very neat thing about this too is that, like, I could probably say when this game came out, but they've had a bunch of title updates. And at first it seems like, oh wow, there's a lot going on from the get go. But I think had I bought this game years ago, it would have been a very slow. Okay, this update happened, and this update happened, and this update happened. I'm just starting up here, and there's a lot of and it was all free DLC. Good for them. And yeah, just a very fun game, and it's another roguelike. Nah, roguelite. I'll just one of the two where like you don't necessarily level up your characters over time, but through completing challenges, you can get these essentially customizers where they impact the entire game. Thankfully, one of the first ones you get, like I played the first game, started with the fighter, and then at first it was like tutorial. Managed to beat through the first run on my first try, woohoo, and got like 600 gamer score in one day. Maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe it was 300. But then I don't know. I played the rogue, didn't have the same luck. Played the wizard, didn't have the same luck. I was hesitant to start the druid because there was a different DLC pack, and once you start that, then you're hooked. You got to make sure you get the rest. If you don't start, then it's not worked against and not included in your completion percentage. You see. Um, Thankfully, one of the first customizers I got was, well, it's a badge. It's called Easy Mode, where essentially there's more health potions. But yeah, other than that first run, it really just felt like the game is too hard and too unforgiving unless you have Easy Mode on. But I am now switching on other optimizers, which make the game more challenging. And let's see. I'd say and that's a weird thing about these roguelike and roguelike games that I play, where like I'll play and for a given game session, like I'll do one run. Slay the Spire is another example too, and it's the weirdest thing when you compare my score to everyone else's. I'll often see people be like, "Yep, this is my awesome score." And I did a run in 30 minutes. And for me, I don't know if I'm just way too strategic or care too much, but like this is a game where like a run for me might be, provided I don't lose out in the first act or second act out of three, an hour could pass, like twice to three times as long as everyone else. I don't know. But yeah, there's daily challenges, weekly challenges, or just standard runs with ascension levels that get harder and harder. They add more rules to make it more difficult. These optimizers, which you're unlocking, and you get achievements for beating a run with them turned on. So there's four classes with four different magical abilities of which you can equip two at a time. It's just so much variety and fun, and yeah, sometimes you can do a run and you can feel very powerful just through the energy and the equipment you happen upon or the artifacts you get for defeating elite bosses. It's just a super satisfying game. That I've put in at least 37 hours in. And yeah, as I realized yesterday, and I was like, wow, I didn't play any roguelike games except for Dead Cells this year, or at least as far as Game Pass games goes. I think at some point I found Round Guard, and I was like, okay, well that's that. Although yeah, that doesn't explain June to October, but yeah, certainly between all of October and probably most of November, Round Guard was the game I was playing most, and tied in with Cyberpunk. Yeah, I'm just gonna show this Round Guard. Yeah. And apparently it's on a lot of the platforms too. Nexomon is a game I regret buying for $11.46. It I read some reviews. A lot of them were just saying like the sequel is better, but this is a good game, and people were saying like it's Pokemon, But as far as Pokemon games that aren't actually Pokemon Go, this is a decent Pokemon game. And I started it up, and it seemed like okay, yeah. It's got it looks like it's got a couple of improvements over Pokemon. One being like when you enter the wild grass, you can see the enemies, so you can probably choose how many fights you want to come across. Another being when you get these monsters and they join your party and they level up. It looks like yes, they learn new attacks and stuff, and you equip 4 of them, but I don't think they forget. So hopefully there's just like, hooray, I'm not limited by, whoops, why did I forget that move? That was a mistake. The kicker is, though, I played it once, and, it was kind of slow, though. I think in other platforms, people were saying, like, yeah, I play on speed up mode. But that's not my point. I played once, you know, got into the story, probably didn't even really make it to the second town. And then ever since I tried playing again and I just get stuck on the start screen. Like, it just goes, press any button. And the only button that works is I press Y and it opens up the Xbox profile window saying, are you Woodrow1 or are you one of these guest accounts? And that just sucks. And there's all these tips online about like, oh, well, all you got to do for that. And I've had the same problem with other games before, Dicey Dungeons and One Step from Eden. They say you gotta just hard reset your Xbox, like you hold the power button for 10 seconds and let it actually shut down, and then when you boot it up again, it clears the cache, so to speak. But no luck. And then I even tried contacting Microsoft and just being like, "Can I get my money back?" And they're like, "Well, it's been more than however long, 7 days, so no." Actually, they didn't even say no. They just said, "We'll let you know," and then they just never responded. So I was like, okay. That's too bad. Yeah, and that's just horrible. The Metronomicon Slay the Dance Floor Deluxe Edition, which I purchased for $7.16. And yeah, I think I just happened to notice at the last second where it's like, oh, okay, the non-deluxe edition was maybe like $5, and then the plus tax, and then the deluxe edition was another dollar. And it's just like, well, if I enjoy the game, I might be kicking myself having not gotten the deluxe edition. But I don't know what the difference is. It may be more songs, but I'm just playing through the story anyway, so I don't think more songs really would have made any difference. But yeah, really good stuff. It's essentially it's an RPG where you play kind of like on a DDR type setting. You got 4 characters in a row, and when they have an attack or a spell that they can use, arrows will start showing up on their screen. Now, if you're not, and then you just switch between one track at a time. Now, if you're not on a track, like you're not penalized for missing arrows if you're on someone else's track. So like you got ally here, ally here. If this one's got arrows coming down, but you're on here, you don't get penalized for not hitting them. But you're better off trying to switch to a track that has arrows moving. Songs are really good. I was super delighted at one point where I finished. I think I finished the first session of the game. I was like, cool, satisfying experience. Put the game down for the day. I think maybe I waited a few days to play it again. I think maybe I was playing Round Guard or Startup Nexomon. No, that story doesn't make sense. Oh yes, Startup Nexomon, that makes sense. And then so I booted when I booted up Metronomicon for the second time. The very next song I had to play was a song by Mega Ran. So it's just like, that's a good sign, man. Good game, good stuff. And yeah, some of the songs, the ones especially I happened to manage to play a few times, super catchy. Couldn't recite the lyrics though, I just don't remember. But certainly when it's quiet and suddenly I just remember da 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 da, and so on. And yeah, the characters themselves are quite customizable as you proceed through the story. You unlock different characters, but I think I mostly stuck with 3 of the 4 ones you start with, and essentially how powers work. you as you level up, you acquire more powers, and then for every given character, you can decide whether you want that power to be in the first, second, or third slot. And so how that works is when you're playing in the game, um, like you're on your character's track, and if you hit enough notes, like you'll see an eventual line. So if you cross that line, that's like, okay, now you can. If you switch to another track, you'll activate that character's first level power. But if you keep going, you can activate their second. Keep going, you activate their. It'll just hit third. That's the highest level. Um, so yeah, so it's kind of like, okay, so you kind of prioritize. And I think if you set things to the third level, they are that much stronger. Or I'm misremembering. I think I might be misremembering. So it's kind of like you kind of want the spells you're casting most often to be the first level, but also have the option to, if you spend more time on a given track, do these other spells which might come in handy in specific circumstances. Um, and everyone has customizable, or you can switch them out, passive abilities, which are mostly just set on hit however many notes in a row without missing any. Um, and yeah, between, I think maybe there's an easy, normal, hard, and maybe a, no, I think maybe just easy, normal, hard. And rhythm games are neat. The first time you play a rhythm game is your best time, I find. Like, let's say Guitar Hero. Guitar Hero 2 is where I started and played the most because, you got to start on beginner, do an entire playthrough, then you switch to easy, do that playthrough, then you play on normal, and then maybe if you are set and happy on normal, cool, maybe you stop there. Maybe you play some of the harder ones, and if that becomes your favorite, maybe there's some you enjoy in expert. I don't know. This one, I played easy. I was like, okay, I get it, but let's try normal. And yeah, normal seems to be where my jam is, where it's just tricky enough that it's just like, yay, I'm getting the percentage I want. Hard, I think, yeah, let's finish the game first, then I'll try hard. Um, but each level has its own difficulty, so and they give a rating out of 10 in regard, kind of like DDR. So I think if I play a level and realize, oh, this is only difficulty 5 out of 10, maybe I'll try this one on hard and bump it up to 7. um, so there's a story, there's arena challenges, there's leveling up, and then there's free play mode, and I think that's where the deluxe content will be, but I think I'll be done by the time I get to that. In the same day that I bought Nexomon and the Metronomicon, this is okay. This is another surprising buy. For $1.66, I bought Serial Cleaner, um, which I thought I heard of, but I think I mixed this up with a game where you're a Roomba who, first there's burglars invading your home, and then you have to kill them through Home Alone hijinks, and then clean up the mess as best as you can because you're a Roomba. What good are you if you have a messy house, right? This game, though, Serial Cleaner, my understanding is you're a professional, not necessarily a hitman, but like the guy who makes problems go away. Um, and I think you arrive at murder scenes or murder investigation scenes where like the police are already there, they're looking, they're trying to gather evidence and what, but you just run in, sneak in, and try to like steal that evidence while no one's looking, in a combination of stealth, and then once apparently when you inevitably get caught, high action and running and stuff. uh Reviews made it sound fun. I just haven't bothered picking it up yet. um the Jackbox Party Pack 9. Yeah, so as far as pre-orders go, Jackbox is something I should I know I'm gonna buy. But as you can see here, it was out November 20th. I didn't end up having to buy it or having an occasion to play it until November 18th. So I happened to buy it on a Black Friday or some sort of Thanksgiving sale. But it still worked out to $34.93, including tax. So like I'm saying, the price is going up. Um, And the tricky thing is, I only played it once. I don't. I'd have to think about it in order to be able to tell you what all the games were. Um, Quick Sort was neat, and in teams you are given a category and you're trying to sort things on a spectrum, but you don't really know. So it'd be like, movies and when did they come out. So you're given a movie and it's just like, okay, well, I don't know if this is going to be in the middle or early or later. But then when you get another item of that category, oh well, that goes after and that goes before. We'll see if how well the categories become over time, but it's sometimes hard to remember things like years. Um, yeah, and the rest of them, non-sensory was fun, where you try to you're given a prompt to draw something, and they give you a spectrum of let's say sad to happy, and from so like 0 is sad, 10 is happy, and they try to get you to be like, so draw something that you think people will rate this a 7 out of 10 or a given number out of 10. Um, and yeah, it's just goofy fun because not only is it like, okay, I got to draw a prompt enough that people can understand what's going on, but I also have to add in this attribute. And it needs to be on a not just a given attribute, like a certain degree of an attribute. And am I going for very or medium or middle or somewhere in between? Um, and then in the later rounds, they have things that aren't so clear cut. This is the opposite of this. Like I think I got one that was bodybuilder Santa Claus, right? So it's like, okay, well, and maybe I got 3, so it's got to be more Santa than it is bodybuilder, but not completely Santa Claus. So what do you do, right? That was a worthwhile experience. Those two. I don't remember the Actually, yeah, I don't really remember even the names of the other ones. Oh yeah, one was Fibbage. Yes, Fibbage 4. It's solid. And yeah, it comes again with enough about you, so that's good too. It looks like I think we only played like 1 or 2 rounds, and maybe only one because we got it. We wanted to play the other games. We know what Fibbage is, and it looks like they included prompts told by fans of the game, which I'm sure is novel for those fans, but it's like I don't care. Um, and yeah, the two other ones, I don't know. Maybe if we'll try again, and maybe with a different crowd, we'll get a different reaction. But nothing in yeah. I liked non-sensory and quick sort. Fibbage is a staple, but yeah, nothing here really seems like it'll be a game that is like, well, the game of the pack or one of anyone's favorites. I could be wrong. Like I say, people really like Job, um, and I just think it's standard. I like Joke Boat. And yeah, so the second, well, Disgaea 6, I spent $53 on. Um, or Disgaea 6 complete, and this was on, or wait, well, that's what this image says. I don't know if it was complete. It was on the Switch, and I thought about it. I'm like, oh yeah, when I bought a Switch, the first game I played on it was 4 or 5. I think 5 complete. And yeah, that's why I played. Actually, yeah, to this day, it might, except for maybe Smash or Splatoon, was probably the game I've spent the most on the Switch. Is Disgaea 5. Yeah, more so than Animal Crossing. Oh, yeah, Pokemon, maybe. Um, yeah, Disgaea was a game I loved on the PS2. Um, well, I put in 1,000 hours. I'm pretty sure. And yeah, it was just a series which not having access to the Sony consoles, I only naturally played the first one and second, and yeah, I for the PS2, made an effort to get a bunch of the Atlas Nipponichi games, And this is where I say I like tactics. That's where that comes from. I'm pretty sure is the Sky games, and I love the novel idea that you could any item you find or any equipment you find, you can go to a person in the world map and just be like, here's a thing, and I'll go, cool. Let's make a randomized dungeon within that item, which you can now go into the dungeon, and depending on the rarity of the item, it could be 30 levels deep or 100 levels deep. And with each level you go down, you level up the item. But odds are, by the time you're done, you also find new and better equipment in the dungeon, which then you open up a new item world in that piece of equipment, and it's just so novel. Disguise 6, like maybe I'm done the tutorial bits. But actually, man, I played through the tutorials because very quickly I realized, oh, they've changed quite a few things. That'll sound boring if I start describing it. Stuff like just how some mechanics work, where it's like, oh, I think I better actually pay attention to what's going on. Stuff like, because in tactics game, where your units are matter a big deal. In Disgaea games, if you put allies next to each other, and then you tell them to attack enemies which are adjacent to them, since if they like each other or if they're compatible, they will help each other and do team attacks, which do slightly more damage. One thing that changed, now your allies don't need to be adjacent; they could be 2 spaces apart. So I'm like, oh geez, I better start paying attention to these tutorials, see what other changes they'll have. You can throw units, which was a staple, which didn't seem important at first, but no, once you get into the text of it, it's like, no, that's how you get through levels quickly. Is you just create a tower, like you put all your units in a line, then let's say 6 units. You make this person pick up this, or you make this person pick up this person pick up those 2 people, and so on and so on and so on. And then you have this person at the bottom throw the entire stack, the person second throw the entire stack. So essentially, that's how you get from the get-go 1 unit to be able to move like 6 turns of movement in one go. They changed that, so you no longer throw necessarily just in straight lines. You can throw, at diagonals, and like it's more like a radius of how you can throw stuff like that. Where it's just like, okay, you gotta pay attention. And yeah, I think at some point I just need to find something to watch. That isn't too involved. That I was just like, I think I might just watch The Office again. Like in the past, I've had to tell myself to stop watching The Office. You've watched it enough, but that'll work with the handheld or just turn on some movies, man. Maybe I need to watch more movies. I typically don't watch movies, or not as much as I don't know. It's so weird. I'm in that category of just like, hey, do you want to watch a 2.5 hour movie? No way, that's too long. Do you want to watch? Do you want to binge 8 half-hour episodes of a show? I'm in. You son of a gun, I'm in. So yeah, so that explains how I managed to buy all these games, even though Game Pass is a thing. So you can see that if I really don't like it, then I should stop looking at the sales every week. A thing just entered my mind of, but Kerry, do you want to list the games that you didn't buy? And well, what comes to mind now is there was a new Borderlands that came out, Tiny Tina's Wonderland. But you know what? It feels like I've been burned so much now on season passes, or what do you call them? Yeah, season passes for DLC. I don't know, man. It's just, because I like to buy stuff on sale, of course. Why not? It's what you do. But it just seems like, if you really like a game, you buy it when it comes out. And then you think, okay, I'll buy the DLC when they bundle it, when they create a season pass and put that on sale. But in my experience, what I see happens a lot is the season pass never goes on sale. Or maybe it'll go down a little bit. I mean, I guess when you buy it as a pass, it's supposed to be marked down already. But then it's kind of like, but then what I see a lot though is like I'll wait for the season pass on, for games to go on sale, and I'll watch and I'll watch and I'll watch until it gets to a point where like sometimes they release a game where like a game of the year version, which is the game plus the season pass, and that will go down in price to the point where it's just like, wow, okay, so the game of the year version, which includes the game of the season pass, is now costs less than the season pass, but the season pass didn't ever go on sale. And it's just like, so you're just punishing the people who bought your game, who like you, and it's just so annoying. And also, I heard Tiny Tina's isn't doesn't capture the magic of Borderlands, so I'm just waiting it for it to be a reasonable price. And I see, yeah, they have additions that include the season pass, so maybe I'll just wait till that becomes a reasonable price. Even though I've even heard the DLC is kind of lackluster and just more of the same in each ones. I didn't buy Saints Row, but I heard that wasn't that great either. But you know, I'll give it a chance eventually. And what was it? And then they had a new Tales from the Borderlands, which yeah, that Tales from the Borderlands. That's when I learned it is dumb to pre-order Telltale games, or at least these things where it's episodic content. Because yeah, I bought it. I'm like, I'll buy the full season, please. And and you get episode 1 at launch, and then by the time episode 2 came out, the season pass was discounted. So once again, it's like, okay, so you're punishing the people who bought it right away, who want to support you the most. So I think in this case, I'm not certain if it is episodic or if they're doing periodic releases. I think you could buy the whole thing right now, but it's still just like, okay, well, why is it then this as much as it is? I can wait, and I will. Um, Nothing else. I know. So Ubisoft games have shown up on Game Pass, and I was surprised that they added Assassin's Creed Origins and Odyssey as quickly as they did, because those are massive games. And like before I got Game Pass, those were two of the biggest. Yeah, that was it. So it was Fallout 4, Borderlands 3, and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I'm pretty sure I didn't buy after Game Pass. So those are the three massive games that I made sure to complete and be thoroughly done with before I subscribed to Game Pass. Um, and yeah, I see Far Cry 5 has been added to Game Pass. So it's certainly gotten to a point where like I like Ubisoft games. And looking at my Game Pass games, it's surprising that I don't play more open world games. Although I am tempted to start Immortals Phoenix Rising soon, which is Ubisoft. But yeah, they added Far Cry 5 to Game Pass. So now I'm almost feeling like seems kind of like I might never buy an Ubisoft game ever again. But I am keeping my eye out on Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which hasn't reviewed, or I don't know. But that's a massive game, and seemingly there is a DLC that's the Ragnarok edition, which isn't included in the season pass. So I might have to wait either a long time until the whole thing becomes a price I want to pay, or eventually when the next Assassin's Creed game comes out, maybe Ragnarok will be added. Sorry, right? Valhalla and maybe Ragnarok, or maybe the DLC will still you have to buy it, but maybe the base game will be on Game Pass eventually. Meanwhile, it's just like, yeah, I could play Far Cry. I bought Far Cry Primal, still haven't played it. Likewise, I still haven't played their other open world one where you're a hacker. There's a third one now that's out. Where for some reason the game art, it's a picture of a person wearing a pig head. What Watchdog? No, not Watch. Maybe it is Watch Dogs. Okay. Yeah, not Sleeping Dogs. It's Watch Dogs. The Watch Dogs Legion. I'm pretty sure I'm describing. I enjoyed the first two. Would like to if it all comes down. I think I could get it for 20, but then plus the season pass. Like, ugh. But yeah. So I currently looks like I could just wait, and then Ubisoft games will become available. Maybe I'm hopeful. And then we'll see what happens if the Activision Blizzard acquisition ever goes through. um, Otherwise, yeah, it looks like I am done buying games. Well, I say that, but then Cowabunga collection. I'm sure there'll be some collections. There's an Advanced Wars game that's supposed to come out, which is like a remake of the first two games. I might be tempted to buy that, but it's just like the Wii U's right there. I did buy them a second time already. I would. It's tempting to buy it to support the idea of like, yes, more Advanced Wars, please. But who knows if that'll actually pay off. A Mega Man Battle Network collection is coming. Um, which that actually seems daunting to me because, and once again, it seems like they could have just done one or two, and it sounds like there might be 6 games at least in a collection, but like those games are full-fledged RPGs. Like I think it's nuts how generous some of these collections are these days. Let me think. Legend of Zelda, when Breath of the Wild 2 ever comes out, done, no question. Sonic Frontier, I'm hearing, is if you're a Sonic fan, you like it. But and you know what? Now that I'm thinking about, I got burned on Team Sonic Racing. Yeah, no, I don't know. There are games I am aware of on the horizon, but then yeah, but they often get clouded behind headlines of this many games have been added to Game Pass, or the reverse. These games are being removed, and then it's like, oh, I better make sure I play that one now. It's very exciting times. Good time to be me. Thanks for hearing me out. Have fun.